The United States has formal diplomatic relations with most nations. This includes all UN member states except for Bhutan, Iran, North Korea, and Syria. Foreign relations of the United States with Oceania countries. Number 1. Australia. Formal relation began with Australia from 1940. Australia's relations with the United States are excellent, with Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stating that America doesn't have a better friend in the world than Australia. Australia and the United States have long been close and strategic allies and have traditionally been aligned with the Commonwealth of Nations. The two countries have a shared history, both have previously been British colonies, and many Americans flocked to the Australian gold fields in the 19th century. At a strategic level, the relationship really came to prominence in World War II, when the two nations worked extremely closely in the Pacific War against Japan, with General Douglas MacArthur undertaking his role as Supreme Allied Commander based in Australia, effectively having Australian troops and resources under his command. During this period, the cultural interaction between Australia and the US were elevated to a higher level as over 1 million US military personnel moved through Australia during the course of the war. The relationship continued to evolve throughout the second half of the 20th century, and today now involves strong relationships at the executive and mid-levels of government and the military, leading Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs, Kurt M. Campbell, to declare that in the last 10 years, Australia has ascended to one of the closest one or two allies of the US on the planet. It has also strengthened its relationship with the United States as Britain's influence in Asia declined. At the governmental level, United States-Australia relations are formalized by the ANZUS Treaty and the Australia-United States Free Trade Agreement. Number 2. Fiji. Formal relation began with Fiji from 1971. Relations are currently poor, due to the United States' opposition to Fiji's unelected government, which came to power through a military coup in December 2006. The United States suspended $2.5 million in aid money pending a review of the situation, following the 2006 coup. Number 3. Kiribati. Formal relation began with Kiribati from 1980. Relations between Kiribati and the United States are excellent. Kiribati signed a treaty of friendship with the United States after independence in 1979. The United States has no consular or diplomatic facilities in the country. Officers of the American Embassy in Suva, Fiji, are concurrently accredited to Kiribati and make periodic visits. The U.S. Peace Corps maintained a program in Kiribati from 1974 to 2008. Number 4. Marshall Islands. Formal relation began with Marshall Islands from 1986. The Marshall Islands is a sovereign nation in free association with the United States. The Marshall Islands and the United States maintain excellent relations. After more than a decade of negotiation, the Marshall Islands and the United States signed the Compact of Free Association on June 25, 1983. The compact gives the U.S. full authority and responsibility over defense of the Marshall Islands. The Marshall Islands and the United States both lay claim to Wake Island. The compact that binds the U.S. and the Marshall Islands is the same one that binds the United States and the Federated States of Micronesia and Palau. Number 5. Federated States of Micronesia. Formal relation began with Federated States of Micronesia from 1986. Reflecting a strong legacy of trusteeship cooperation, over 25 U.S. federal agencies continue to maintain programs in the FSM. The United States and the FSM share very strong relations. Under the amended compact, the U.S. has full authority and responsibility for the defense of the FSM. This security relationship can be changed or terminated by mutual agreement. The compact that binds the U.S. and the FSM is the same one that binds the United States to the Marshall Islands and to Palau. Number 6. Nauru. Formal relation began with Nauru from 1976. Relations between Nauru and the United States are complicated. While the new U.S. ambassador to Fiji has promised Nauru assistance in economic development, there have been disagreements about Cuba and foreign policy of the United States, and the United States does not have an embassy in Nauru. Instead, the U.S. Embassy staff in Suva, Fiji make periodical visits. Number 7. New Zealand. Formal relation began with New Zealand from 1942. Relations are strong, but complex. The United States has historically assisted New Zealand in times of turmoil, for instance, during World War II and with the 2010 Canterbury earthquake. New Zealand has reciprocated, for example, by participating in the Vietnam War. However, the United States suspended its mutual defense obligations to New Zealand because of that state's non-nuclear policies. Despite disagreements between the two countries, the bilateral trade and cultural relationship continued to flourish. New Zealand has continued to play a supportive role in international conflicts in Somalia, Bosnia, and the Persian Gulf. Following the September 11, 2001 attack on the United States, New Zealand supported international counter-terrorism efforts and assisted the United States throughout the war in Afghanistan. Throughout the 2000s, the United States has remained New Zealand's fourth largest trading partner and third largest source of visitors. Number 8. Palau. Formal relation began with Palau from 1996. On October 1, 1994, after 5 decades of U.S. administration, the country of Palau became the last component of the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands to gain its independence. In 1978, Palau decided not to join the Federated States of Micronesia, due to culture and language differences, and instead sought independence. In 1986, the Compact of Free Association Agreement between Palau and the United States was approved, paving the way for Palau's independence. Number 9. Papua New Guinea. Formal relation began with Papua New Guinea from 1975. The United States and Papua New Guinea established diplomatic relations upon the latter's independence on September 16, 1975. The two nations belong to a variety of regional organizations, including the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, Forum, the ASEAN Regional Forum, ARF, the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, SPC, and the South Pacific Regional Environmental Program, SPREP. Number 10. Samoa. Formal relation began with Samoa from 1962. Relations are considered cordial and warm. Since 1967, the United States has supported a substantial Peace Corps program in Samoa. Over 1,700 Peace Corps volunteers have served in Samoa over that time, with 30 volunteers currently in country. The Peace Corps program emphasizes English literacy at the primary school level. Other forms of U.S. assistance to Samoa are limited. The U.S. Embassy, staffed by a single officer, is the smallest embassy in Samoa and one of the few one-officer U.S. embassies in the world. Number 11. Solomon Islands. Formal relation began with Solomon Islands from 1978. After independence in 1978, the United States kept its close relations with the Solomon Islands. Both cooperate within regional organizations in the Pacific, and the United States has an embassy at Port Moresby. Number 12. Tonga. Formal relation began with Tonga from 1886 and 1972. The United States and Tonga enjoy close cooperation on a range of international issues. Officers of the American Embassy in Suva, Fiji, are concurrently accredited to Tonga and make periodic visits since the United States has no permanent consular or diplomatic offices in Tonga. A U.S. consulate in Tonga is due to be established in 2009. Peace Corps volunteers teach and provide technical assistance to Tongans. Tonga has no embassy in Washington, D.C., but has a permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, Fikadamilo Udoakamanua, who also is accredited as ambassador to the United States. Tonga also has a consulate general in San Francisco. A large number of Tongans reside in the United States, particularly in Utah, California, and Hawaii. Number 13. Tuvalu. Formal relation began with Tuvalu from 1978. Relations between the two countries are generally amicable, or neutral, but there have been notable disagreements regarding the issues of climate change and the Kyoto Protocol. Number 14. Vanuatu. Formal relation began with Vanuatu from 1986. The United States and Vanuatu established diplomatic relations on September 30, 1986. 3 months to the day after Vanuatu had established diplomatic relations with the Soviet Union. Relations were often tense in the 1980s, under the prime ministership of Father Walter Linney in Vanuatu, but eased after that. At present, bilateral relations consist primarily in USA to Vanuatu. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate your time.